What is up, my party people? My name is David Hanlon, aka the Laptop Legend, and today we're going to be talking about some of your guys' biggest questions about Shopify dropshipping in 2020. Everything that I'm going to be talking about today is based on questions that you guys gave me on my TikTok, so feel free to follow me there or on my Instagram. It's at the Laptop Legend, because I'm way more active there since it takes a lot less effort to, make stuff than it does to make a YouTube video. I also just started the Laptop Legends Mastermind group for Facebook, so if you want to go check that out, I'll put the link in the description, but it's just facebook.com/groups/the Laptop Legends. The question topics for today's video includes ads, shipping times, customer service, product research, taxes, and much more. By the end of today's video, you should have answers to most of those issues that have been holding you back, and hopefully this will give you enough confidence to where you can actually take the action and start your business, which you've probably been putting off for months. As a reminder, if you use my referral link in the description, you can get a 14-day free trial on Shopify, which is more than enough time to build your website and get a feel for everything. With that being said, let's dive. No diving this time. Let us commence. In the first section of questions, we're going to be talking about ads. So the first question asks, basically, after how much traffic would you consider changing the product if it's not selling well? So basically, how many visitors should you have to your site and get 0 sales and continue to pay for those visitors to come to your site? And honestly, in my opinion, traffic really does not matter, just because the number of visitors you get for a certain amount of money spent completely depends on the audience size, the location of the audience, the interests, how fast your website loads, basically a whole lot of different factors. So I wouldn't recommend looking at the number of people who come to your website. I'd recommend looking at the amount of money that you actually spend, because basically what you can do is you can take a look at the margin of the product and figure out exactly how much you need to spend on ads and still break even, and then you just know that it needs to be under that amount. I personally recommend testing multiple products at once, so you can't really go based off of website traffic anyway. But a great way to tell exactly whether or not you should kill a product's ads or not is looking at the different metrics. So you can look at CPC, you can look at cost per add to cart, and you can look at cost per purchase. And obviously, if you don't have a purchase, that won't really apply, but you can see how much it costs to get each visitor to your website, and if it's a ridiculous amount, like, I don't know, over $2 on Facebook ads, you should definitely kill it. And then also look at the cost per add to cart. Normally, if it's over $10, I'll kill it. And that's just based on the average metrics. The next question is, how can I target people on Facebook ads? And honestly, this is a great question. A lot of people really overthink this process. The truth is, Facebook has a ton of data on the people who use their platform, so I recommend going with simple, broad interests that have a lot of people in them, and Facebook is really good at doing that targeting for you. Once you have your pixel on your website, you can track all the data. You can make custom audiences to retarget those people, which ends up getting a way higher ROAS, return on ad spend. You can also do lookalike audiences, but honestly, when you're just starting off, just do simple interests that really relate to the product that you're selling. So if you're selling a fishing pole, you can do fishing as an interest, for example. The next question is, can you pay for ads with the money that you make, or do you have to pay for them upfront? And this is actually another good question. The truth is that Facebook has this limit, which is called the billing threshold, and when you first start out, you have to prove to them that you can have a high billing threshold. So I think when you first make an ad account, it's something like $30 or $50. I don't know. I feel like it's different for me on each of my ad accounts, but essentially what that means is your first $50 of ad spend, as soon as you hit that mark, they're going to charge that to your credit card or to your debit card, to your PayPal, whatever payment method you have on there. So when you're first starting out, you don't really have a whole lot of amount that you can spend before Facebook actually charges you. Moving forward, as you continue to spend more, they will raise this amount up and up. Eventually you can get it to $900 automatically. I've heard some people are able to get it above that, but I personally never have. There's days where I get charged 15 times by Facebook for $900 in a day, just because I'm spending so much on ads. But once you get to that point, you're not gonna have to worry about it as much. But in general, I would say, you're asking this question because you wanna start out with a little bit of money and then use that money to, reinvest back into your business. And I don't think that's a really good idea, because the amount of money that you start with is essentially just how long you have to test products before you have to quit because you have no budget left. And if you're starting with such a low amount that you need to immediately make profit to, be successful and keep going forward, you don't have enough saved. I personally recommend absolute minimum of $500, but $1,500 is definitely better because it gives you more, more time to test products and really find one that's going to work for you. The worst thing possible to do is start a business, be excited about it, and then have to quit because you don't have enough budget and you spent your entire budget of $200 testing products and didn't find one that worked for you. I started with $3,000, and if I'd started with $200, I 100% would have failed and given up. So this person asked me where they can find resources about how to learn, about advertising on Facebook and Instagram. I personally recommend my course, thelaptoplegends.com, but that's a little on the pricier side because I put a lot of time into it. So if you guys are on a lower budget, I also recommend checking out Oberlo's free course. They have a lot of good, helpful videos on there on advertising and some other aspects of the dropshipping business model. And another good free option that you can look into is Facebook's free course. I wouldn't highly recommend it because honestly, Facebook is surprisingly bad at knowing what strategies are effective on their platform. But if you want to learn exactly how to do some of the the strategies on there, it's definitely a decent option if you're on a low budget. The next question is, will my pixel get messed up by using it in different locations, such as, I started in Texas when I created it and then I moved to Illinois, etc. Excuse me. And the answer is no, it doesn't get messed up. Your pixel, technically, but your Facebook ad account could definitely get deactivated. And the reason for this is Facebook is notorious for deactivating you for pretty much no reason. And this particular one happens just because you changed geographic location. So I personally experienced this when I go on vacation. I live in St. Louis, Missouri, and one time I went to Oakland, California, and because suddenly someone from Oakland, California was trying to create ads on my Facebook account and spend hundreds of dollars a day or thousands of dollars a day, they thought it must be fraud, so they deactivated my Facebook ad account and all my ads got turned off and I didn't make any money that day, which is really frustrating. So definitely something that I recommend looking into is called VNC Viewer, or there's also a couple other ones. I think Microsoft Remote Desktop is a decent option, TeamViewer is a decent option, but VNC Viewer is the one that I personally use. And basically what this allows you to do is keep a computer logged on at your home at all times, and then when you're traveling you can bring your laptop and basically log into your home computer via VNC Viewer. So on Facebook's end, it still thinks you're at home, and this kind of prevents that issue from arising at all. The last question in the ads section is, how can I get results on my ads? I spent $30 to $40 on promotions and Facebook ads and still got no sales. Well, the reality is $30 to $40 really is not that much when you're testing. My first daily budget, like starting off, is $100 per day per product that I'm testing. So, when you keep that in mind, it really is not enough to spend $30 or $40 on a product and then decide that it's not worth selling. But in general, if you spend a lot of money on a product and it doesn't get any sales, what you do is you switch the product, and that's what it comes down to. Because product, again, I've talked about this before in my other videos, but I believe that product is the most important aspect of dropshipping, because if you have a good product, it pretty much sells itself, and if you have a horrible product, it doesn't matter how good your ad is, no one is going to buy it. Alright, on to the next section, which is product research. And I extensively talked about this in my previous video. I'll put a little link card, whatever it's called, right above me, so you can click on that if you want, or you can probably see after this video is over. But essentially in that video I talk about $200,000 worth of products that I've sold, so you probably want to check that video out if you haven't watched it already. But essentially this person asked me, what factors go into product research? And for me, the most important thing is probably perceived value of the product, because if you try to sell a tiny margin product, it's never going to be able to work with all the expenses that you're going to have. So I definitely recommend finding something that has a very high perceived value. Make sure you have high quality images that you can use for ads. There's a few other factors, but again, check out that other video. The next question is, how can I save Louise the like button from the shark attack? What? What do you say? Oh my god. Well, I think I know how you can save them. You just gotta click that like button. Know what I'm saying? The next topic is customer service, and we just have one question for this, but the question is, I have a dropship store and sometimes it takes 2 months for the products to arrive, and by then customers want their money back, which makes sense. And also AliExpress won't help refund you because they have a 90-day policy to get your money back. So what to do? Yeah, this is a great question. So the reality is I've experienced a lot of delays, and I'll talk about that in the next section. But in terms of the sellers on AliExpress, most of them are pretty lenient in terms of asking for your money back. And even if you can't do it within the official dispute system of AliExpress, you can still shoot them a message and let them know. And sometimes they'll give you credit on a future order, or you can place the order but not pay for it, and then they'll change the price so that you can do that for a future order. That's normally a good way to resolve it, because if you let them know that you're gonna continue being a valued customer of theirs as long as they help you out on this one time, generally speaking, they want the long-term business and they're gonna give you that discount or refund. The next section is fulfillment, and there's a lot of really good questions in here, so I definitely recommend watching all the way through. So the first one we got is, how do I ship to other countries besides the USA, especially right now, given the global situation? And my answer would be, the global shipping network is still really messed up, so I would ask you why you want to focus on countries besides the US. Even if you're outside of the US, you can still just sell to the US. The US has over 300 million people, and we're probably one of the biggest purchasers out there, and definitely the biggest market for e-commerce that most people can sell in. So I definitely recommend focusing more on the US than other places in the world right now. I used to sell tons all over the world, more over the world than in the US, but in the last couple of months, I've really focused down on the US just because that's where you can really manage your fulfillment and just be more on top of everything. So I would really take the time to think to yourself, why am I only shipping to a certain country outside the US, or why am I focusing on outside of the US, and is there anything preventing me from just shipping within the US? This next question, which I get all the time, probably my most common question, at least nowadays, is how do I speed up the shipping times, because I can't make it work with month-long shipping times to ship from China to the US. And yeah, this is a big issue, and hopefully I can help clear this up for you guys. Back in 2011, ePacket shipping, you might have heard of that if you are super into drop shipping, but if not, ePacket shipping was created to allow customers to get their packages delivered from China via air with delivery confirmation on the tracking instead of just by sea. And this has made a huge difference, and is what originally allowed the whole dropshipping market and business model to become a thing. Like if you go back 10 years, this wasn't even a thing. So we owe this all to ePacket. Back when I started dropshipping in 2018, I used ePacket to ship all of my goods to my customers, and it normally got there within like 10 to 14 days. And honestly, this might seem like a lot still if you're used to Amazon 2-day shipping times, but the truth is, as long as you have good customer service, that's perfectly manageable. I personally ordered from Nike a couple months ago, and it took 2 weeks to get to me. So as long as the customer is happy with their order when it arrives, you're never gonna have an issue with 10 to 14 day shipping times. Fast forward to today, and the global situation, which I don't believe I'm allowed to say by name on YouTube, has lowered the amount of flights from China significantly. So a lot of times when you try to ship a package via ePacket, it will just sit there in this queue before it even gets shipped out of China. So it might be a month before you even get your package shipped out of China. And I've also heard a lot of nightmare stories of people paying for what they think is ePacket, and I think I just spit. What they think is ePacket, and it actually gets shipped by ship, which means that you pay for the cost of goods sold, and then it gets shipped by ship, and there's no tracking information, no tracking updates for well over a month. And most of your customers are not going to be okay with that, and they're probably going to hit you with a chargeback or ask for a refund, which is horrible. I have orders from March that I shipped out to my customers back then that still have not been delivered, and it's now July. Obviously, you cannot run a business like this because you'll get a 50% chargeback ratio. So what's the solution? Well, I have a couple solutions, luckily. Number one is ship to the US from the US using AliExpress. And this is actually an option on the search bar. I'll put a video here so you guys can see, but essentially what you do is when you type in the product that you want to find, all you have to do is press ships from the US, and there's a little US and USA flag. And basically on the product page, it looks like this. You can choose ship from the US instead of ship from China, and this allows you to ship from the US, and it delivers a lot quicker. It delivers within, I think it's normally 2 to 7 business days or something like that. And this is obviously a lot more manageable, and you're not going to have any of those issues with it being shipped by ship, because obviously if you're shipping within the US, it's already there and it doesn't need to be put on a ship, so it's not going to be delayed, and the tracking information is going to be way better. Usually these are larger Chinese companies that have a lot of employees as well as warehouses here in the United States. If you have a WeChat, which is what I recommend getting to talk to Chinese suppliers, it's basically their version of iMessage or WhatsApp. You can actually talk to them on there, and I was talking to one who said they have a warehouse that is completely empty right now, and if I wanted to order in bulk from them, and they could store it there basically in the US and have way faster shipping times, and they do that for free. So definitely something that's worth looking into. Option number 2 is to ship products that have a high enough margin that you can actually afford to pay for shipping that will get here in a reasonable amount of time. This depends on, obviously the price of the product, the perceived value of what you can charge for it, as well as the weight and size for shipping. But a good example might be a watch that you could sell for, say, $300 because it's not too big and it's not too heavy. So it has a high perceived value, and the shipping probably wouldn't cost that much. DHL shipping might cost, I don't know what it would be, $50, $100, something like that, but still leave plenty of room for ad spend and for profit in there. I've personally been using DHL to ship a lot of my products, and it really works great, like surprisingly great. I've had products be delivered in like 5 days to the US, and honestly that's probably better shipping times than a lot of the places that you would get shipping directly from the US. So definitely worth looking into, especially if you can find a product with high enough margin that you can make this work. Number 3 is to do research on actual US based suppliers that you can dropship from. I'm going to link an article that has a lot of great options that, I think it sorts by niche. So depending on the niche that you're in, there's different options of what you can use, but these are going to be a little more expensive than if you dropship from AliExpress, but generally speaking, it's going to be higher quality and it's going to have decent shipping times because it's coming from the US. So this is definitely worth looking into, especially if you can have a brand like I teach that basically improves the perceived value of everything that you're selling. Number 4, and this is actually a really cool option most people don't know about, is you can order in bulk and have it delivered to a printful warehouse, and they will actually take note, organize all of your shipment, and then they will upload it to your store, and you can have it sync automatically so that whenever you get an order, they will ship it out directly from the warehouse. They'll charge you a flat fee that's pretty insignificant, and then you don't have to worry about anything. So they ship it out for you every time you get an order automatically, and voila, it's fulfilled. Pretty cool option. All right, on to the next question, and this is, how do I get custom packaging? I personally do not think that this is worth it unless you're at the point where you're buying a ton of inventory in bulk, because the reality is most of the people that you're dropshipping to are only buying from your website because it's an impulsive purchase. They see a product in an ad that they like and they buy it without really thinking about it. So whether or not you spend an extra $1 to put your logo on the package is not going to make any difference to them because they're probably never going to buy from you again anyway. But when you do this, it charges you extra, obviously, for every single item that you ship out. And if you're shipping out tens of thousands of orders, like $1 extra per order makes a really big difference. So I don't recommend doing this unless you're literally, branding everything and you're buying in bulk and you have one product that you are working directly with manufacturers for and something like that. Because for the majority of dropshippers, you don't ever get to this point and you just cycle through products very quickly, within a couple weeks or a couple months, and you never get to the point where it actually turns into a legitimate brand where you need to do the branding. This question is, how can I prevent the customer from knowing that I'm shipping from AliExpress as well as seeing the price that, the supplier is charging me, which is way cheaper than what I charge them? To basically sum up what's going on here, there is an option at the checkout for AliExpress where it allows you to leave a little message for the supplier. And I basically say something along the lines of, please don't put any invoices, put any prices, anything like that, any branding on these packaging, and I will make sure to sell a lot more of your products and leave you a 5-star review. And that's pretty much as simple as it is. Most suppliers are going to honor that if you put that on there, and I've gotten some returns, so I've seen what it looks like and what the suppliers send out to people, and honestly, they're pretty good about not shipping out stuff to your customers. Most people who are suppliers on AliExpress like working with dropshippers because we provide most of their business, and they don't want to alienate that by messing up our customers. So they're very good at working with us. The next question is, what is the difference between adding the link into your Shopify and importing the product versus shipping the product to the customers? This is actually a question that a surprising amount of beginners have, and I just want to clarify for you guys. So when you import the product into your Shopify store, all you're doing is uploading a picture to your website. So there's no mystical link that is created that automatically places the order on AliExpress when you do this. So this is something that you have to go back in and do yourself. Luckily, we have apps that help out with this, like Oberlo, which I'll put a link to that below in the description, but that's a free app that allows you to basically press with one button and it automatically goes through. It has a Google Chrome extension and it will fill out the customer's address in AliExpress, do everything automatically, and then all you have to do is hit place the order. So basically, you hit the button on Oberlo once, it enters all the info, and then you hit place the order. So it's basically 2 button clicks, and it does everything automatically for you. And this is what I recommend doing because it makes the process a whole lot easier. But you do have to go back in and do this. It's not going to automatically go place all your orders for you without you doing anything. So don't think that, don't sell 10,000 orders worth of stuff and be confused why things aren't getting shipped out when you don't do anything on the back end. Like, this is something you're gonna have to take care of. This person wants me to give a detailed step-by-step of how to fulfill orders through Oberlo. I actually already did this on my TikTok account, so I'm just gonna play that video right here.
You finally got your first order for your e-commerce store, but you have no idea how to fulfill it. Well, this extension makes it really easy. I'll put the link to it again in the comments, but all you have to do is go to orders. The order will pop up here, and then you just hit order product. It will automatically open up the suppliers page on AliExpress, add it to your cart, and then automatically enter the customer's information. Literally all you have to do is click place order.
Okay, so the next question is it worth paying for faster shipping when dropshipping from China for better reviews, even with the hit on profit? And I kind of mentioned this before, but in short, yes. It's not going to actually be a hit on profit because it might be upfront, but the logistics for ePacket is so slow at this point in time that if you ship via anything that's not more expensive, faster shipping, you're going to have so many chargebacks that it's going to actually cost you more money in the long run than it would if you just paid for the faster shipping upfront. And this ultimately is a really bad idea because you end up with a lot of money that is going to get taken away from you later. So there's nothing worse than thinking you have, $10,000 in your bank account and then suddenly you get $5,000 in chargebacks and you're stuck with $5,000 because you've made decisions as if you had $10,000 in your bank account. So make sure that you pay for the faster shipping and make this a priority, especially right now during these times. All right, guys, now we're on to the next section, which is website design. So the first question for this one is Shopify versus Wix. For those of you who don't know what Wix is, it's basically another website builder. I actually used this back when I was in college to build myself like a little, cheesy portfolio website or something like that. I don't know, complete waste of time like college, but that's a whole nother discussion. So in terms of this, I personally recommend Shopify over Wix 100% of the time, just because it's really the best e-commerce platform that is out there in a wide variety of areas. They have really good support. They have very customizable features. They're very reliable. There's a ton of themes out there for them. There's a lot of apps out there for it. The app in general that you can actually put on your phone is great. The ka-ching noise is really addicting, I'm gonna be honest. And there's a reason that some of the biggest e-commerce companies out there are using Shopify to host their brands. Milk Boys, they do crazy amounts. They had 600,000 people live on their site at once. That's hosted by Shopify. They have no issues with that. Kylie Jenner, her site is run on Shopify. Some of these biggest brands like Fashion Nova, just to name a few examples. So if they're doing it, there must be something right with it, and it's just what I've used this entire time, and it's extremely good, and I would recommend using that over anything else. This question is, how can you sell online if you can't afford a website other than eBay? And that's honestly kind of a tough question to answer because I don't recommend starting if you can't afford to pay for your own website, because let's be honest here, the domain costs on Namecheap, I think it's like $8 or something like that, and then Shopify has a 14-day free trial, and then I think it's either $29 a month or $79 a month, depending on how much you sell. So at that point, if you can't afford $29 a month, you need to save up a little more because you don't have enough to be starting this business, and that's the truth about the matter. That goes along with another question that says, can you get a free domain and free advertising? If you don't have $8 to spend on a domain, you need to work a normal job until you've saved up a little more. And in terms of free ads, you can't really get free advertising. Google, they generally have this coupon for when you're starting Google ads. Sometimes Facebook does too, Snapchat. I've seen it on a lot of things, so you can do your research, but essentially you spend $25 and then you get $100 in free advertising credit. So that can be a good way to get off for a little bit for free and have a good start. And then also something that you want to look into is TikTok, and I've made some videos about this. I'll put the link here. But on TikTok you can get a ton of free traffic with a viral product for free, just because it's TikTok and the algorithm will promote stuff that people like to watch. So if you have an ad that might go viral on Facebook, that same type of thing could go viral on TikTok, and you could get a lot of free traffic to your website, which could replace Facebook ads. All right, now we're going on to the legal stuff, and there's a couple questions in here that kind of go together, and that's, is it legal and is it unethical? And I would say yes and no, and the reason for that is this is pretty much what every single business on planet Earth does. They find a product that is cheap from a supplier, they mark it up, and they sell it to you for more expensive, and you wouldn't have been able to get that product if not for them, so you're willing to pay more than you could if you got it from a supplier. And it's the same thing on when you're dropshipping, and the only difference is, and this is why people feel that it's, immoral or illegal, it's because people could have access to the first place where you're getting the product from if they knew about it and really took the time to do it. But the difference is you're the one who is paying for the ads, and you're the one who's putting it in their life, putting it on their news feed, and basically exposing them to a product that they think is cool, that they want to buy, that they wouldn't have seen otherwise and probably wouldn't have bought. And that is why you're being compensated for the difference in price, because if not for you, they never would have gone to AliExpress and bought this product. Let's be real here. So because you showed them this ad, they got a product that is actually useful to them, and that's why you're justified in charging more than it costs on AliExpress. The next question is, am I allowed to start at 16 years old, or is this too young? The way I would answer this question is yes, but no. So basically, you technically can't legally do it in your own name, because I think Shopify and all the payment processors require you to be 18 years old to sign up with them. But I have a lot of friends, not a lot of friends, I have some friends who have started under 16 and made it work. I have a friend who started at 14, and by 16 he was doing 5-figure days. And that's serious. And if you know who I'm talking about, miss you, bro. But also, there's a lot of people who have similar stories. I see these comments on Shopify videos all the time. And basically what you have to do to make it work legally is talk to your parents and see if they're okay with opening the business in their name, or you could talk to an older sibling if that's a better option for you. And this allows you to sign up for stuff, but then you can still run it because technically it's under their name and they're legally responsible for it. And they have to understand this going in, but this allows you to do it and is a good option. And to me, I don't think this is sketchy at all, because technically it's the same legal responsibility as if you make like an investment account, but it's a custodial account, so your parents' name is on the account, they're responsible for everything that goes on in there, but technically you're still the one who's doing the stuff in there. To me, it's the same thing, and that's why I don't feel bad about it. So if you want to start at 16, 15, 14, go for it. Just make sure that it's money you can lose, but honestly, there's no better time in your life to take a risk like this, because if you lose all your money, okay, that's great. You're 14 years old and, it's not going to ruin your life. The next question is, and I get this a ton, it asks about, tax returns, how you handle income taxes, what you do when you make money, and pretty much everything to do with taxes. So basically what I recommend doing, guys, is get an accountant. Honestly, it's going to save you a lot of headache. It's going to save you a lot of money. In the long run, they end up paying for themselves over and over again. My accountant saved me so much money this year that she paid for herself more than what I paid her. And honestly, I didn't have to do any of the work, so definitely worth it. In terms of the taxes that you have to worry about, pretty much it's like any other being self-employed. You're not going to have an employer to pay certain taxes for you, so after a certain level of income, it makes sense to switch from classifying yourself as a sole proprietor LLC in the eyes of the IRS to an S Corp. And the reason for this is it allows you to pay out some of your earnings to yourself as a salary, which is wages, which is taxed at a higher rate, but then you can pay the rest out via dividends, which is technically a different form of payment from your business, and you don't have to pay as many taxes on this. So ultimately, that's something that you're going to look into later, and hopefully your accountant can help you handle that. But just know that going in, when you start off, you can start with an LLC, sole proprietorship, but then later on you'll switch to a different type. The other form of taxes that you have to consider is sales tax. And this is something that I spent a ton of time researching and basically trying to figure out what to do when I was first getting into dropshipping. And I couldn't find a legitimate answer anywhere. Pretty much every source said something different. So I'll tell you guys exactly what I do right here. Sales tax laws vary by the state that you're in, but essentially a little bit of history. They used to have no sales tax if you're selling online, but because of Amazon and large companies like that, they had to institute sales tax for online retailers, but it really depends based on the state. So a good law to go based off of is the the nexus law, and this basically means that 100% for certain, if you have a nexus in a state, so basically if you have legal operations there, like a warehouse, or that's where your business is legally registered, then you have to collect sales tax for that state. So in my example, I live in Missouri. I have to collect sales tax for any sales that I get in Missouri. But beyond that, it gets a little trickier because every single state has their own laws. So some states, if you hit 1,000 sales in their state, only then do you have to remit sales tax, and it might be if you hit $10,000 in sales in another state. So basically, it's really hard to keep track of all these variables, and it's one of those things where you don't need to overthink it. Most of the time in those states, you're not going to hit that amount of sales tax, but you can individually look up the laws for each state if you want. There's also an app called, I think it's TaxJar, that can help automate some of this process for you. But my reasoning is I don't think you're likely to hit that, and there's no point in stressing about it, especially just because it's very hard for a state to know if you hit that amount, and just based off the different laws, I don't think they could come after you. So in my experience, once you get to the point where you have an accountant, you can have them handle that for you. But in general, just go based off the nexus of where you have your state registered in, and don't collect sales tax for any other states, because if you do and then you don't remit it, that's technically very illegal and you don't want to be doing that. The last question in this section is asking, do you need an LLC or something else? And I kind of touched on this already, but essentially, yeah, if you can and you have the budget for it, the cost depends on the state that you live in, but I do recommend setting up an LLC before you do everything, just because it makes the whole process very easy, very straightforward, and you're organized from the beginning versus, doing stuff in one person's name and then having to do it in the business name later on. Makes it easier for getting business credit cards, so I do recommend doing it in the beginning if you can do it. The legal name for it is called a single member LLC, and this basically separates you legally from yourself. So like your business is a different entity from yourself, which means that if something were to ever go wrong with your business, a product caught on fire and murdered someone, never had that happen, but I guess it could technically. If that were to happen, then you would be legally protected because your business would take the hit, but you wouldn't take the hit. So that's the difference in terms of what you want to look for. The last section is called Getting Started, and this question is basically, the person says their biggest issue is starting and learning all of the small details. And yeah, honestly, that's probably the biggest issue that people have with dropshipping, is making sure they don't get lost in all the little details, because there is a lot of things that you need, there are a lot of things that you need to do correctly in order to run this business. And that is why I built my academy. So again, feel free to check that out, or go look at Oberlo's free course if you want to have something to guide you through a lot of the basics. Because if you try to just, go at this on your own, you're going to miss a lot of important details that have a big impact on your success. And yeah, I think that's about it. Anyways, guys, that is all for today. Hopefully you found this information helpful, and hopefully these helped answer some of those questions that you've been having for the last couple of months and have been holding you back from doing drop shipping. With that being said, remember to subscribe and turn on post notifications, because I will be doing giveaways as soon as my channel gets monetized. And I think that's it. So let's grow better together, and I'll see you in the next one. Te quiero preguntar, bebé, dime por qué te mientes. No puedes esconder todo lo que tú por mí sientes.